Continuing our conversation with Long Beach City Prosecutor Doug Haubert. Doug, you're recognized as an expert on nuisance cases, and you served previously in the city attorney's office, in the city prosecutor's office, handling these nuisance cases. Give us a sense of why abating nuisances is so important on the criminal side.
Well, it's been called the broken window theory before, and I truly believe strongly that if public nuisances aren't abated quickly, they continue to grow. And the public, or the broken window theory essentially is if a broken window goes unaddressed, it sends a message to the community that nobody cares about that house or that building, and the problem gets worse and worse and worse.
And Mayor Giuliani in New York City did that very effectively with graffiti on the subways and throughout the city, and I know Pat West, our present city manager, did it very effectively in Paramount when he was city manager there.
And we can do it here in Long Beach. What we have to do is go after some of the worst cases and do it quickly. You can't let these things sit for a while. The public gets the feeling that nobody cares about them. They stop taking care of their own property. It sends a message to criminals, this is a neighborhood they can move into because nobody's watching.
And there was one particularly notorious slumlord that you prosecuted.
Well, that was several years ago, but I think it's still the record in Long Beach. We had one slumlord who was convicted, and the house, the conditions were so deplorable that the judge who actually looked at the house gave him 14 months in county jail,
wow,
which is a very significant sentence. A lot of our violent criminals don't get 14 months in jail.
For the condition of property that he owned and rented out?
At one property that he owned and rented out.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
He housed parolees and sex offenders in this one house, and he had illegal housing conditions that were so disgusting. The jury took no time in convicting him, and the judge sent a strong message, which I think sends a message to the community. There was a lot of press on that case.
So part of your marching orders to the troops are to continue with a vigorous nuisance abatement program? Absolutely.
In fact, one of my first things in office was to meet with fire department officials, health department, code enforcement, building and safety. And I'm asking them to bring me the most serious cases right away, because I don't want them to wait. There's a process in the city that some cases can take a long time.
You give them warnings and the next warnings?
But they don't have to take that long. And I want to expedite some of the more serious cases. We need to send a message to the criminals that are actually housing people illegally. We need to send a message that we're not going to put up with it for 6 months or a year before we do something about it.
And then the word gets out on the street and others start to comply voluntarily after you bring a case like that.
Absolutely. We filed, after I took office, we filed a 23-count misdemeanor complaint against a person who had rented out a warehouse and was cutting into the warehouse rooms, running electrical lines and plumbing lines to try to house a number of people. I believe this property owner thought they could get away with it for 6 months or a year, make their money, and then move on. We got this person before they had put people in the housing, and that saved the problem.
You also are an expert in land use, election law, and ethics. Tell us about your experiences in either of those areas.
Well, for the last 10 years, I haven't just been a city prosecutor. I've been a city attorney outside of Long Beach on a contract basis. And one of the areas of expertise that I've developed is in California ethics laws. And I've done training to over 200 officials, city officials, on things like conflicts of interest, government contracting laws, to make sure that the laws are followed properly. If the procedure is tainted, the public doesn't respect the process.
Do you think here in Long Beach we need additional ethics legislation in the municipal code?
I don't think we need additional legislation. I think we just need constant reminders to people. I think people generally don't go and look for violations. They don't look for ways to violate the law, but they have to be reminded sometimes in the area of conflicts of interest. They do.
And you're also an expert in election law.
Well, absolutely. It's one of the expertise. It probably didn't hurt since I had to run for this office, but it's one of those niche areas in California law. There aren't a whole lot of attorneys who have litigated election cases, but I have in my past outside of Long Beach. I hope to never have to prosecute someone for election code violations, but I certainly could, and I know the elections code quite well.
I know that intent of the voter is an important guideline for determining disputes. Have the new machines helped eliminate some of the ambiguities?
Well, I don't know. In fact, I testified in front of the state elections committee when legislation was pending to go to ballotless voting, electronic voting.
Yes.
And I think you have to have a paper trail, a safeguard, so that you
agree.
can audit the electronic
agree.
voting.
And who can forget in Gore versus Bush in 2000 in Florida, those guys looking with the magnifying glasses at the dots and all.
Yeah, hanging chads was a new term in our vernacular, and pregnant ballots or something with the button pushed out a little bit, but not all the way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the ultimate goal is, of course, to give vent to the will of the voter, but reasonable people can differ on what a given piece of paper means.
Right, right. And I think it's, again, goes to the process.
Yeah.
You have
And
to have a fair
land use,
process.
you're also an expert in land use.
Well, with code enforcement goes land use rules, and sometimes land use controls are very confusing. And I think it's important, a lawyer who's prosecuting those cases has to understand how zoning decisions are made and building and safety decisions are made at the legislative level in order to prosecute it effectively as a prosecutor. Great.
Well, we'll be continuing our discussion, but first we have to pause for these messages.
Phil Trainees mixes California style with continental cuisine that includes fresh seafood from around the world. Since Phil is the chef, the menu has a wide variety of pastas, salads, soups, and appetizers that feature his unique personal touch. And the Italian-American signature dishes are simply beyond delicious. You never know who you're going to run into at Trainees, from the famous sports legends on the Wall of Fame to local celebrities having a drink at the bar. For the best fine dining experience, visit Phil Trainees.
At Performance Plus Tire, you'll find we carry Toyo tires. For over 50 years, Toyo has been a world leader in the development of high-quality tires. Optimum performance, safety, and a comfortable ride. That's what makes Toyo tires great. And now come into Performance Plus Tire for a great deal on these Toyo tires. Proxys ST, Open Country AT, and Proxys 4. Toyo tires, driven to perform. Come in today and we'll install new Toyo tires on your vehicle while you wait. Performance Plus Tire on Cherry Avenue, 1 mile north of the 405 in Long Beach.
When I was a boy growing up in Italy, I had a dream to own my own store. I came to the United States and I worked hard as a tailor. Hi, I'm Umberto. I've been in Long Beach since 1960, carrying the finest quality men's clothing. Italy's a long way away, but styles are just around the corner. Umberto, 2141 Bellflower, Long Beach.